Hiking, it's an amazing way to get some exercise. Not only is it a great way to get your body moving and get some fresh air, but you also get to see some pretty beautiful scenery too. But you should never underestimate how brutal nature can be. Harsh weather, rough terrain, dangerous animals. Not to mention, you could get lost if you don't know what you're doing. So today we're discussing some famous hiking trails where people have vanished without a trace. And we're starting off with the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. There are plenty of public hiking trails here, but there are certain areas that are restricted. There are too many stories about this place to count, and many of them are pretty macabre. These mountains are very rugged and can be challenging to navigate. There's steep cliffs, the temperatures are extreme. Over the years, tons of hikers and treasure hunters have gone missing here, because yes, there's a legend of treasure buried somewhere on this mountain range. The main danger here, aside from all the ghost stories, is the harsh terrain and the lack of clear trails. It's very easy to get lost or fall to your death, and many people are never found. One of the creepiest stories about this place, though, are all the reports of heads being found. Human heads, and with their bodies sometimes being found in a completely different part of the mountain range, or just nowhere to be found at all. So, along with how inherently dangerous the place is, disturbing stuff has been known to happen here too. Even some very experienced hikers and mountain climbers will veer as far away from this place as possible, saying that there's just this bad energy about the place. Next up is Bridal Veil Falls Trail in Utah. This trail was closed for a while after a huge avalanche hit, and if I'm not mistaken, it may still be closed. Aside from dangers like that though, this place is also known for a pretty strange disappearance a few years back. It's a very scenic spot, known for a beautiful waterfall, and it isn't the most extreme hike, but it does have some tricky spots, and if you're not familiar with the area, it's easy to get turned around. In 2016, 2 hikers died while on this trail. One was a foreign exchange student named Ketty Chen. The other was 28-year-old Brandon Rees. They were missing for just over a day when their bodies were found. They'd fallen to their deaths. The area they'd been hiking ranges from moderate to very technical, and unfortunately, neither of the pair had proper gear with them. Great Smoky Mountains National Park. This is a beautiful spot on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, and has some stunning views, lush forests, but people go missing here all the time. The park is vast and the woods are dense, making it easy for someone to get turned around and lost. There are also very dangerous animals like copperhead snakes, bears, feral hogs, bobcats. Over the years, a few people have wandered off the beaten path and never made it back. And it's not just a case of people getting lost. Sometimes they seem to just vanish without a trace. One of the strangest cases is the disappearance of Dennis Martin in 1962. He was on a camping trip with family. His father had seen him going behind a bush to hide. He was gonna jump out and scare the adults, but 5 minutes went by and he hadn't come out. The family looked everywhere for him and he was nowhere to be seen. They contacted the park rangers and there was a huge search. Even the Green Berets were called in at one point, but he never turned up. The problem was it started to rain heavily on the first day of the search, which would have gotten rid of any clear tracks. And then there was heavy mist on the days that followed. So if you're planning a trip to the Great Smoky Mountains, enjoy the scenery, but be smart. Now we head way over to Nepal to discuss the Annapurna Circuit. Now, this trek looks absolutely spectacular. Pretty sure this would still be very much worth it for me. Amazing scenery, but apparently the terrain can be pretty challenging. And there have been a number of hikers who have disappeared along here. The Annapurna Circuit stretches across the Annapurna mountain range in the Himalayas. It's got high altitudes, the weather can be pretty harsh, and the trails wind through diverse landscapes, from subtropical forests to alpine meadows. The circuit crosses the Thorong La Pass, one of the highest trekking passes in the world, reaching an elevation of over 17,000 feet. So you gotta be very well prepared for something like that. People have died along here for all kinds of reasons, harsh weather and avalanches. accidents, and just getting lost and never being seen again. Next on the list is Denali National Park in Alaska. This place is home to the tallest peak in North America, Mount McKinley, now officially known as Denali. Once again, you have rugged terrain here and unpredictable weather. British mountaineer Richard Leo disappeared on Denali in 2010. He'd been attempting a solo climb of the West Buttress route, but he never made it, and his body was never found. And just last year, 2 mountain climbers died while climbing a 10,300-foot peak called the Moose's Tooth. It's been described as a, quote, steep technical route. A friend had contacted authorities when he hadn't heard from the pair, and a search and rescue was launched, but the 2 were never found. It was likely they'd set off an avalanche that dragged them away. And just like with most of the places on this list, search and rescue isn't easy because of its remote location and limited accessibility. The park is also vast, making it tough to locate people in a short amount of time. Next up, we have the Appalachian Trail, and probably the saddest story on this list. So this is a famous hiking path stretching over 2,000 miles from Georgia to Maine. It crosses through a variety of landscapes, forests to mountains, making a popular but very challenging trail. Now, the AT is known for being a long-distance hiking paradise. It's got its challenges though. It's wild, and people have been known to go missing. One of the most well-known cases is that of 66-year-old Geraldine Largay. In 2013, she was hiking a section of the trail in Maine, and unfortunately, she got lost. She'd ended up wandering into dense terrain, so wild it was actually used for military training. She wouldn't be found until 2 years later. She'd been writing in her journal though, which was found along with her body by a logger. The last entry read, "When you find my body, please call my husband George and my daughter Carrie. It will be the greatest kindness for them to know that I am dead and where you found me, no matter how many years from now." The Appalachian Trail is long, with parts that are less traveled and can be dangerous to navigate, and if you go off the trail, it's easy to get disoriented. Now we head over to New Zealand with the Travers-Sabine Circuit in Nelson Lakes National Park. Another absolutely stunning place by the looks of it. I mean, it's New Zealand. Lord of the Rings was shot here for a very good reason, but it can be dangerous too. In 2014, a German student named Christian Pren embarked on the Travers-Sabine Circuit but never returned. All that was found was his backpack, which he'd left at the base of Mount Traverse before he'd attempted his climb. Mount Traverse is the second highest peak in the park, and it's known for being treacherously steep. About 50 people have gone missing in this park and have never been found. All have been traveling solo. Cradle Mountain-Lake in St. Clair National Park, Australia. This is Australia, so danger kinda goes without saying. People need to be rescued from this area on a pretty frequent basis, it seems. This place is famous for its rugged landscapes and, of course, the stunning Cradle Mountain itself, but also has its fair share of mysteries. The park has seen a few cases of people going completely missing, especially in its more remote areas. One of the things that makes Cradle St. Clair National Park unique is the overland trek. It's a popular and beautiful trek, but you gotta be seriously prepared. There's a warning right on the Tasmania Parks and Wildlife Service website saying, "Warning, the overland trek is a serious undertaking for well-prepared walkers with a good level of fitness and who understand the risks of walking in a remote alpine area. Weather can change rapidly and deaths have occurred, even in summer, when people have been caught unprepared in cold, wet, and windy weather." So yeah, weather is a big part of the problem in this area. It can be very unpredictable. Next up, we have the rather infamous Yosemite National Park. This park in California is known for its beautiful granite cliffs, the waterfalls, all the people going missing, the pretty trees. Oh, wait, what's that, missing people? Yeah, lots of them. The most well-known case is probably Stacy Arris in 1981. She was a young hiker who veered off from her group to take pictures of a lake and then was never seen again. Helicopters and ground teams searched for her, but she was never found. And she's not the only one. The latest missing person is Joel Thomason, who planned a 3-day solo trek in September of 2021. He never returned, and his body has never been found. Yosemite's terrain can be pretty challenging. There are a lot of steep cliffs, dense forests. The park encompasses a vast area, and while popular destinations like Yosemite Valley have well-marked trails, if you decide to venture into more remote parts, you may not be ready for it. So just like with every place on this list, just don't take nature lightly. And finally, we of course have the Bennington Triangle. The Bennington Triangle in southwestern Vermont has become pretty well known over the years because of the mysterious disappearances. One of the most well-known missing persons cases is Paula Weldon. She was a college student who vanished on December 1st of 1946. Paula was a sophomore at Bennington College and had gone for a solo hike on the Long Trail, a part of the Appalachian Trail that passes through the area. Unfortunately, she never returned. There was a massive search effort, including hundreds of volunteers, law enforcement, even the military, but there was no trace of her. The Bennington Triangle is an area including Glattensbury Mountains, Somerset, and Bennington, and it became known as the Bennington Triangle because there are plenty of other unexplained disappearances in this area of land. Some other famous cases are the vanishing of James Tedford, who disappeared from a bus in 1949, leaving all his belongings behind. That has to be one of the strangest cases I've ever heard, because he wasn't even out in the open, he was on a bus. And the mysterious disappearance of Paul Jepson in 1950 while on a family outing. This place is very, very strange. And with all that said, I've been your host, James, and I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.